Okay. Okay, we are now live on Instagram and everywhere else. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Hello, beautiful people. If you're wondering why this live is on a Monday and you're like, wait a minute, these are on Thursdays. Yeah, well, I've been a little out of action for a few days. So, on a side note, on that note, if you have stuff going on with your body, really great question to ask is, what am I sick of? And then if you're new to the access processing, asking a question like that, questions designed to bring up an energy. So you'll ask a question like that, like, what am I sick of? Like, one of the things I got to for myself with asking that was, I was like, man, I'm sick of making things in my life relevant that are just not relevant. Do any of you do that? Where it's like you make things like money or the way that people see you or the things that you've decided you cannot choose or the things that don't seem to be working in your life relevant when they're not really, when what would be probably more relevant to you, and I know it is for me, is knowing that I have choice and knowing that I can create anything. So, great question. What am I sick of? Also, what am I tired of? What am I sick and tired of? Oh my goodness. And then POC and pod. So use the clearing statement. Everything that brings up, everything that is, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and POC, all 100 shorts, boys, pervads, creations, basies, and beyonds. So we also have so many epic body tools in Access. There's a lot of body processes that you begin to learn in the foundation class. You also get, we have an Access 3-day body class, which is phenomenal. There's a new body process in there that is so good. So I just want to put that out there that we have a lot of resources. But the topic of this week's live is, what if you could create a life bigger than you were told you could have? Now, when I was growing up, basically the future that I was given, what people would say to me, they'd tell me, okay, so you go to school, you basically finish school, you can get a trade, you'll get a relationship, and that's what it is to have a life. And I was like, okay, that's really about all I'm kind of gonna get. And I really aligned and agreed with that point of view and created my life that way. And so by the time I was 29 years old when I found Access Consciousness. And for those of you who haven't heard, it was this tiny little, well, basically I'd gotten to a point in my life where my life wasn't working. But the thing for me that was far more difficult to deal with was I didn't like who I'd become. I didn't like this small life that I'd created, and I didn't like all the judgments that I had of myself. Like, everything was, I'm never going to get beyond this. I can't change this. Everything was looking at what I couldn't do. It wasn't about asking what I could choose. And so I basically one day just was like, universe, God, stars, whatever is out there, help. I need some help because I cannot live like this anymore. And it was interesting because the next day I found this little ad in the newspaper that said, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory, call Mel. And I called this girl and she was like, look, it's this process called the Access Bars. And at best case, your life will change. The worst case will be like you've had a great massage. And I was like, okay. Yeah, and I went and saw this girl and she ran this process on me. And I laid there and sobbed for an hour and a half. And I got up after it, and what I noticed was, I first of all noticed this space or this lightness in my world that hadn't been there before, or hadn't been there for many, many years, and a space that was really an acknowledgement of me in all those judgments that I had of myself, all of those things of, I can never create my life. I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to be able to change this. None of that was there in my head anymore. And I had this sense of space that I could actually choose something different. And I bring that up because whatever it is that you having that you have going on in your life right now, anything that makes you heavy is not true for you. One of the first tools that I learned that was such a gift is whatever's true for you will make you lighter. Whatever's not true for you will make you heavier. And so we all have an awareness of that, whatever way that we have it. Some people will call it intuition. Some people will call it, will use their body as a way to respond with that. Like, oh, I've got knots in my stomach or whatever that is for you. But if you begin to learn how to trust that and learn how to follow that and start making the choices in your life that make you lighter, there is a completely different path you can take with it. So in this, early on in this journey, after this session, I was like, wow, what if all of that I bought as real and true for me isn't? And the first thing I started doing was questioning. So with anything that you have going on, let's say money, for example, because a lot of people have got a lot of money stuff going on at the moment. But the question with that is, what have you decided is unchangeable about all of that that's actually changeable? Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, again, that's the access clearing statement. If you want more info on that, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. And so from that point, this journey began to take a very different path. And I remember one of the things that went off like a light bulb in my world was I was at the first class that I went to with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. And he said to me, well, he said to the room, he said, look, your life is a sum total of every choice you've ever made. And when he said that, I went, oh, wow, I've actually chosen this. Because I had so many points of view about, well, I can't create my life because, I had a lot of abuse and I had an interesting upbringing. I can't create money because I grew up with none. I can't seem to create a relationship because everything around me there was nothing to look to for that either. And I had so many excuses about why I couldn't create my life. And so when he said that, I went, wait a minute, I'm choosing this. I've made choices to create this. What if I could make some different choices? If you get this part to whatever degree that you can, that your choices create what's showing up in your life, but also the points of view that you take, that you either align and agree with or resist and react to, start to create these solidities in your life that don't allow your awareness of what's actually possible to be there, or at least for you to have access to it. So what if you could look at whatever's going on? So this topic of what if you could create a life bigger than the one you were told you could have? What did you believe that was the limit of what you could choose that you haven't acknowledged, that if you would acknowledge that would allow you to have more choice? Everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. And so with, I was, told with the trade and the relationship and things like that. And I kept hitting the outside edges of that. Like I kept hitting the limit of it, going, why can I not seem to go any further? Why do I seem to get to this as if it's this invisible wall around me or this box that I've put myself in? Why does it seem like I can't get any further than that? So one of the things with this, Gary Douglas started a class many years ago. It was a beginning class in Access. He called it Out of the Box. And it turned out it wasn't really a beginning class because I don't even know what beginning classes are anymore. They've all got, many different tools, all of which create the bigness of the life that really is the life that you're willing to have. If you're willing to have a big life, you can create it. Now, Interestingly, also, what do I mean by a big life? Because you kind of go to this thing, that means I need to have more money, more things, perfect relationship. I have to have everything right. I have to, have all of these things in place, and I have to have whatever judgment that I have of me correct so that I can create this bigger life. Well, what if it isn't that? What if having a bigger life is a moment by moment thing with having more choice and choosing more of what's actually true for you, choosing more of the choices that make you lighter, choosing more of the choices that allow tomorrow to include more of what's true for you in it. So let's see if I can get to a little bit more on the choice thing. But this class that Gary started doing, basically what there was this study done where basically the way that they would train fleas, circus fleas, is they would put them in a box. They would put them in a 12-inch by 12-inch box with a 12-inch ceiling on it. And these fleas would jump and hit this ceiling. And then after a while, they could take the ceiling off of this box and the fleas would only jump to that height. When he said that, it explained my life. I had put myself in a box where I would jump to hit the outside edges, but even if the box wasn't there, even if the limitations that I was choosing and seeing as real weren't there and weren't real and true, I couldn't seem to go beyond it. So everything that is for you, and everywhere you've built this box, and even if the box isn't there, you can't seem to go beyond it, everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povards, creations, bases, and beyonds. And so I also have an out-of-the-box class, little side note. I have an out-of-the-box three-part telecall coming up in a week or so. Anyone can come on that. And, I was listening to this call that Dr. Dane here was doing a few days ago, and he was talking about, I can't quite remember the context, but basically about how a lot of people had been contacting him, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of facilitators in Access, with hearing where people are like, oh my God, I use this tool and everything changed. I used this tool and my life started lightening up. And there are thousands of tools in Access, and they're right here. But the difference with Access is there is no answer. It's all about your willingness to actually use these tools and allow something different into your world. So what if the first step of this for you, if you're looking to change anything, if you're looking just to have more joy in your life, to wake up liking yourself more, have more ease with money, to have relationships where rather than be triggered continuously, they're actually a generative contribution to your life, to have people that you're in contact with that have your back because you have yours, and you allow yourself to actually begin to receive, to add anything to that. Start getting a sense of what it would be like to have that. So first of all, you go, you know what? I would like to have a bigger life, but first of all, I would like to know what that is for me. I would like to find out what's actually true for me and begin to go on that journey of creating it. Some processes that I use with that. First of all, your mind is not so great at giving you clarity with anything. So I tend to do my best to not go there and look for clarity. Looking for clarity with your mind doesn't really work. Question does. And great process that I use all the time. What energy, space, consciousness, and choice can I be to have total clarity and ease with this? So a process you could run is, what energy, space, consciousness, and choice can I be to have total clarity and ease with everything that I truly desire to create as my life and living? And then everything that doesn't allow it, destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pot, all 100 shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Oh my goodness. I forgot how much I like being here with you guys. And then one of the toughest things, well, I know it has been for me, is, asking questions like that and asking for clarity, asking for awareness, asking for consciousness, basically. And so I want to go back to the thing that I said about hearing Gary say, your life is a sum total of every choice that you've ever made. And when I heard that, I was like, it was this light bulb in my world, because I was like, holy shit. And I didn't realize how much, no, my life is happening to me was my point of view. The tagline of Access is empowering you to know that you know. And that for me was the beginning of empowerment, because I started to recognize that I had different choices. But one of the things that I had to learn, and am still definitely learning along this journey, is it's not then about judging every choice that you've ever made that is created where you're at right now. What if having a bigger life was allowing yourself to create you in each and every moment? So you can allow yourself to make choices that don't work out. You don't have to look for perfection, but you can recognize, okay, the past is the past. And if I can use the past for an awareness to create or to make a different choice and create a different future, what choices do I have now that I haven't acknowledged that I actually have? And then everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, POC and pod. So what if you didn't have to judge you anymore? I know, you say that, it's like, oh yeah, it's easy to say. It's easy to say that I don't have to judge me anymore. Well, what if you didn't? What if that also was a choice? And what if how much, well, let me ask a question, seeing as I like asking questions. How much bigger would your life be right now if you had no judgment? How much bigger would your life be right now if you had no judgment of you? How much bigger would your life be right now if you had no judgment of others? How much bigger would your life be right now, and how much more could you receive if you didn't judge what's not working? So everything that brings up, and everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times are good, and just let that in. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so another few tools with this, with creating your life, creating the bigger life, creating the you life, creating one that just goes, yeah, I love it. And, just gets you excited about getting up in the morning and creating you. So I heard another, let me read this real quick. Yeah, beautiful. This weekend, Gary said something like, one of the gifts of consciousness is not having to judge every choice you make. Beautiful and well said. And while we're on that topic of Mr. Gary Douglas, oh my goodness, what oh. Side note, I'm man, that man has some courage, and just be with that for a moment. And if you're like, who the fuck is Gary Douglas? You're in the right place. Okay. We are his disciples. No, I'm kidding. he would not be impressed with me saying that. But side note, so I'm launching a podcast in a few days. It's called What's the Value of Addiction? And I am very much looking forward to having Mr. Gary Douglas on there as one of my guests, who I have a lot of questions for with regards to this topic, and was also such a huge catalyst for me in getting through everything that I've gotten through in the last few years. I am 3 years sober on Saturday, which is, cool and great. And it's 3 years and whatever. But the thing for me that's interesting when I look at it is I'm like, wow, there is so many choices that I made in those 3 years to be here with you guys now, and to be much more present in my life, and to be choosing a lot more of what a bigger life is for me. And the only reason I say that is because I get what it's like to lick to. Oh, that was good. I get what it's like to lick it. I do get what it's like to lick it. I get what it's like to look for the big choices to change it. And from many, many, many years of experience, it's never about the big choice, or very rarely is it about the big choices. It's about the little choices that you make along the way. So when you make one choice to change something, every choice after it that you choose that is more congruent with the future or the likeness that you're actually going for are the choices that create the future. And so in that, and when you recognize that, you don't have to get your choices right anymore. You allow each and every choice, even when they don't create something that works out so great, even when they create an upset in your relationship, even when they, create some financial strain, when they create an upset with your children or in your family, when you judge yourself, when any of those things come up, you can recognize, okay, cool, that's there. What can I be and do to change this? So, tools. Okay, so another great tool with this is how many of you have tried to, in creating a bigger life, focus on, 1, 2, or 3 things? In order to create a bigger life, I need to create more money. So it's all about the money. And money is the most relevant thing, or I got to get this relationship to work, or I got to change this stuff with my body. Well, what if looking directly at what you've decided is the problem is not the thing that's actually going to change it? And what I mean by that, what if adding more things to your life gave you the space to receive more and allowed the things that you've decided will not change or don't seem to be changing, you actually started allowing them to change. So with that, one of the things that we talk about is having at least 10 things going on in your life at all times. And oftentimes, if you're a little OCD and pretty, extreme or full on, I know, speaking from experience, it could be a lot more than 10 things. So good question is, what can I add to my life today? What can I add to my life today to bring me more joy right away? And practice this. Again, is you got to use these tools. So what can I add to my life today? What if you could add one thing that you wouldn't really choose, or you wouldn't normally choose each day for the next month? There we go. A little bit of home play. One thing, it might even be one thing that kind of makes you uncomfortable, or one thing that you've been putting off or avoiding. Because notice when you put off anything and avoid it, all of your attention goes onto it. So, and the energy that you could be using to create your life, you're using to avoid the things that you've decided you cannot deal with, or don't desire to deal with, or can't handle, or whatever that is. What if you didn't have to avoid anything anymore? Everything that is, where you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. So with that also in this, adding just One thing. Start with that. Add one thing to your life every day that kind of makes you uncomfortable, or is this like, oh, I really want, I kind of want to do it, but I don't want to do it at the same time. What I've learned is, well, what if uncomfort could be, what if uncomfort was a gift? And what I mean by that is so many of us have learned that it's easier to create your life from the limitations that you can define than choose from the possibilities that you have no way of controlling. And if we look at that, like, I think we can all relate to that, where if it's just, we basically go on these autopilots in our lives, and it's like, well, this is hard, but at least I know it, I'm comfortable with it. Well, what if you could make some uncomfortable choices that would allow you to see and begin to get a sense of, wait a minute, that was nothing like I thought it would be. That created a different space in my world, or an acknowledgement of, wait a minute, I can create my life. I can actually choose something different. So I had something else with that and I totally forgot. How does it get any better than that? Okay, so I think I've talked about this in one of the lives, but getting a sense of what it is you would like to start asking for. So that could be a list that you start, that starts growing also. As you start adding things, as you start choosing more, getting a sense of what it is that you truly would like your life to be. What is this bigger life for you? I know for me, I wrote a list a couple of years ago of what have I made relevant that isn't, and what have I made not relevant that actually is to me. And so I wrote down this list, and I was like, wow, none of that I've made relevant is actually relevant to me. What is relevant to me? And at the top of my list was liking me, not having a perfect version of myself or seeing how I was getting my life right, but liking who I am. So, what if you could get more of a sense of what that list is for you and what's actually relevant to you? Because for a lot of us, we haven't been taught to really, truly look for what we would like our life and living to be like. We've been given the box. Here's the box to live in. Here you go. Stay in the box. If you're watching this, and especially if you're still watching it 30 minutes in, you were not designed to fit in a box. So what if you could get out of the box and create the life you truly desire? And for a lot of us, I know what it's like also to wait until something is so painful that you have to change it based on the pain. Well, what if you didn't have to wait to change anything anymore? What if you could truly look at, okay, what is it I truly desire to create? And I will leave it at that, I think, for this week. I'm sure I had another 8,000 things to say, but I hope this was a contribution. I will be with you guys again on Thursday. What else is possible, my beautiful friends? I will see you soon. Couple of reminders. We have so much going on in Access. If you haven't had your bars run, check out the Access bars, Access something. You'll find it. Access bars. Check that out. I have a Telegram chat that I share a lot of stuff in. Okay. It's anyone can join it. Telegram chat, which is awesome. I have the out of the box calls, 3 calls, and I am pumped about doing these 3 calls coming up in a week or so. Everyone's invited to that. There are a bunch of free resources on my website, on YouTube with Access Consciousness, on all the facilitators. Find somebody that works for you, or find what works for you with this. Okay. And just, I wonder if you would stay with me for one moment, just as a little energetic contribution. I one of the things for me in realizing, with my body not doing great and asking that question and realizing that I was making certain things relevant that weren't necessarily relevant to me is I went for a hike a few days ago, and there were these massive boulders, and we were googling, researching how old these boulders were, and these boulders had been sitting there for 1.6 billion years. And I'm like a space geek and planet geek, and anything like that fascinates me. Don't even get me started on space. But it was interesting because it got me pondering. I was like, wow, isn't it interesting that we make the things that we make relevant so relevant when they're so small in comparison to you as an infinite being, the infinite perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving that you have available. What would it be like if a bigger life for you was a more conscious one? So in each and every moment, you moving forward from this point was about having less separation, less judgment creating the separation, more allowance for you, more expansion and lightness in your world, and the willingness to choose more expansion and more lightness. So it's not necessarily about what you own or what you do. It's about what you be and what you're willing to have. What you're willing to have is the willingness to receive. So you start noticing as you move forward with just that, call it what I would call a softness with you, a softness with the choices that you make, that you start noticing just in each and everything that you choose, you have more lightness. And when you choose and when you do from being, it creates this expansion in your life. What if you could ask for more consciousness? One of the tools I use every day is, as a question, consciousness, will you please lead me today? Please show me the way. And that's it. And start with that. So if you're going to a job interview, you're going out on a date, you're going to have a meeting, you're talking to somebody, you're, walking your dog, whatever, is what are the infinite possibilities with this? Consciousness, will you lead me? And try that. And what would it be like if you allow consciousness to lead you, but also you to lead you? Like what's actually true for you to lead you? So use these. So you start using these tools, like rather than getting triggered and and separating and going into pathetic or doing anger or all the shit that all of us have had plenty of experience with, using a tool and going, wait a minute, where am I creating this? If I was choosing what was true for me right now, what would I choose? And this is where it gets interesting, is that next choice when you get that awareness. See, you'll ask a question like that. And I know for me, when I ask a question like that, like if I'm being not me, if I'm being that not me energy, which is kind of compressed and contracted and in fight or, doing anger or upset or any of those wonderful question of, okay, consciousness lead me. What would I choose right now if I was truly being me? And get an awareness of that. But the uncomfortable thing is in the next moment, choosing it. So not waiting a day or a week or whatever until you can figure out how, is making a different choice in the moment. Making a different choice, as uncomfortable as it may be, to be like, okay, you know what? Enough. I'm not going to judge myself right now, or I'm not going to use these whatever it is, you reference points or the past as a way of navigating the future. I'm going to make a different choice. Everything that doesn't allow it, pock and pod. And get more present. What would it take for you to be more present in each and every choice that you make. One more moment. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm very grateful. Get your bars run. Ask a question. And whatever it takes for you, get happy. Do something for that sweet body of yours. And what would be fun for you to choose today? Okay, beautiful people. I will see you in 3 days or sooner. Who knows? I mean, infinite possibilities, people. Wow.